If I start with this question, is there something which is an economic theory or understanding or perception or even teachings that we can draw from the Islamic reference or the Quran and the prophetic traditions, something that we have that is or could be perceived as, yes, we have a theory which could help us to get an alternative?
In fact, we have more than a theory. We have a practical example. Everything about Islam, if it's not done now, and certainly in the past, has been done, it's been achieved. The first community that was established by the Prophet Muhammad, blessings and peace be on him, really established the deen of Islam in all its aspects. And as we all know, there was this incredible flowering, this incredible spread of Islam that no one's really been able to explain kind of logically. We saw great civilizations again and again in different parts of the world that have flowered and then of course decayed because nothing lasts forever. But while they've been based on this example, then they have flourished.
So we have examples, we have practices that were already implemented in history. The problem that we have with some of the Muslims and some of the Islamic trends when it comes to literalist understanding is that we just try to duplicate what was done in history. We should extract from what was done some principles, at least a framework.
Sure.
Well, this is what I call a theoretical framework. What can we say?
Well, I think, if we zero in on Islamic finance, what do we learn? We learn that the economy of the Muslims up until the fall of the Caliphate was based on having gold and silver coins. And these were known weights and known qualities of metal. So established on the weights established by Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab, the second Caliph of Islam, the gold dinar, 4.25 grams of basically 22 karat gold. Silver, the silver dirham, 3 grams of pure silver. And this was the basis, a known ratio between the two of 7 dinars to 10 dirhams. So there's a link between the two. And traditionally zakat would always be paid in gold and silver, not in small change, not in what's flus. This is the basis of Muslim economics. I have here an example of these coins. These were minted about 15 years ago now in Dubai. These are minted last year in Indonesia.
So what is this exactly?
And you see basically the same coin, the gold dinar, the silver dirham, and this is a 5 dirham piece.
Okay.
Now, these have intrinsic value. So in the time of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the gold dinar would buy a sheep. Today it will buy a sheep. In the time of the Prophet, a silver dirham would buy a chicken. Today it will buy a chicken. So that's zero inflation in 1400 centuries. 14 centuries. Now, if you look actually at the history of mankind in their financial dealings, the use of gold and silver as the basis of money goes back to 3000 BC at least, probably more, but at least 3000 BC. So we have basically 5 millennia proven track record, it works. If we look at paper money, this has a track record of about 2 centuries, and it's gone horribly wrong.
So just to make it clear, so you are talking here about a practice which
I'm
was
talking
done.
about means of exchange. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. What can we learn for today? What do we have to change? And coming from this Islamic practice, so what is in fact the theoretical framework that we can extract?
Well, if we want a sound economy, a world economy, again, we have to bring gold and silver back into the equation.
Okay.
If we don't have gold and silver there, basically money is only worth the paper it's printed on. And in fact, most money today is not even printed on paper. I think 0.02% of all the money in accounts here, there and everywhere actually exists in paper form. It's all electronic. So in the latest bailout, for example, the Bank of England was creating money electronically. It wasn't even bothering to print it. It was creating it out of nothing. If you look at the whole thing about riba, it creates money out of nothing. I lend you £100, I say you pay me 110.
Riba, you mean interest?
Interest, charging interest. I mean, there are many different kinds of riba, but the most common form, if you like, is just charging interest. That extra 10% is created out of nothing. Now, when you're multiplying this by, millions and billions and trillions, then it's a lot of money that really doesn't exist. So in fact, the whole banking system is a Ponzi scheme. It's a glorified Ponzi scheme. Now, if I can give you a practical example. Look at the American dollar, because this was the last currency to leave the gold standard back in 1973 when Nixon made that cut. Up until then, even 1973, you could, for example, change a $10 note for $10 worth of gold. They were the same.
Yes.
Let's go back to 1914. Okay. Then you would have a $10 note which said we promised to pay the bearer on demand $10 of gold. Now look at the gold coin then. So at that point, it was called a Liberty $10 Eagle coin. $10. You could change that for a $10 note or vice versa. They had the same purchasing power. Now today, the $10 note, you'd say, well, yeah, it's still $10, unless you're a collector and it's a rare.
So the frame of reference.
But hang on, let me just explain. So but that's $10 coin. Putting aside the numismatic value, just let's look at the value of the gold today. Now, at the moment, 1 troy ounce is selling for roughly $10.66. A Liberty $10 Eagle coin contains 16.7 grams of 900 fine gold, so that's roughly 54% of a troy ounce. If you do the mathematics, it comes out that it's worth today 575 paper dollars. So if back in 1914 I said, well, I'm not too keen about this paper, I'll change all my paper dollars into gold, I would basically have that return. Yes, it's quite a big increase.
Yes. So what if we follow what you are saying is that in fact, to come back to a kind of economic stability, we should come back to this, because the stability will be it's the same amount, so we won't have this inflation and everything which has to do with the crisis that we are facing now.
Sure. So it's like Hamlet. Really, see, Hamlet, he says there's nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. That's what the current world currency is. So that's the position they're in today. There's nothing up or down, but thinking makes it so.
So in fact, if we come back to what you are saying, if we come back to the Islamic, the Muslim practices at the beginning, what we can draw for today is really to find from behind the whole system something which is a stability based on silver and gold. This is what you are saying.
This is Islamic finance, yeah.
So this is it. And what, if you want, are there other principles that we can add just to have a better sense of what you would refer to when it comes to Islam?
Well, you see, that's the basis.
Yes.
Then the next step is obviously you have to take riba out of the equation. You can't charge interest.
Yes.
I mean, at the moment the Bank of England's brought it down to 0.5%. They should get rid of that 0.5% as well.
Yes.
Then you get more stability.
Okay.
And then finally, you can't actually have transactions that are dealing with the haram. So if you're talking about investment,
haram, which is the illicit,
you can't invest in distilling wine. You can't invest in a pig farm. These are refinements, if you like.
Okay. So
now, if you look at so-called Islamic finance, they've tried to look at everything except for the means of exchange. But when you go back to the roots, if you go back to the early practice of the first Muslim community, it was made very clear very early on, in the time of Abdul Malik ibn Marwan. So this is Tabi'in stage.
Tabi'in are the followers.
Yeah, the followers of the companions of the Prophet. Yeah, second generation. So it's very soon. And someone came to him one day and he said, "Are you making riba halal?" And he said, "Astaghfirullah, what are you talking about?" And they said, "People are using IOUs as a means of exchange." So, for example, I would want to buy 10 dinars worth of goods from you. I didn't have the money on me. I said, "Tariq, can I just give you an IOU?" He said, "Yeah, sure. I owe you 10 dinars. I'll pay you later." Then you want to buy something, you haven't got the dinars. You say to Muhammad over here, "Look, I want to buy 10 dinars worth of fruit. Can I give you this IOU?" You go to Ahmed, he'll give you the money.
Okay.
That is haram.
Okay.
Now that is a redeemable IOU. What we have here with paper money is an unredeemable IOU. So I was talking about a 1914 dollar, and there it said very plainly, we promised to pay the bearer on demand $10 worth of gold. This is a more modern $1 note, with the Freemasons' special pyramid here, and etc., and the Star of David here of the original 13 states. We won't go into that. But here it just says, this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. And it doesn't even make the promise anymore. So it's an unredeemable IOU. If you look at Scottish notes, for example, they'll still say, we promise to pay the bearer on demand. But if you go into a Scottish bank and say, could I have my sterling silver in return? They say, what are you talking about? You know, you living in the past?
Okay. It's no longer the system. So, okay, this is the first part. We have now a sense that what you are saying is really we have to come to the source, and at the source we understand that everything which is the system itself on what it is based is wrong now, because
it's not that it's wrong, but it's just it's based on sand, it's shifting sand, it's running water. You know, it's like Keats, he said, here lies here lies a person whose life was written on flowing water and shifting sand. This is what the present economy is written on.
Yes, but so it's wrong. It's not right. Is it halal?
It's not right or right. It's certainly not halal.
It's not.
But the thing is, it's not reliable.
Okay.
It's like a spider's web. The first strong wind will blow it away.
Okay, so this is the first thing, and then we have the interest that and riba and interest that we have to get rid of.
Sure.
And then the third dimension is really the way we have to deal with even the money itself.
And again, this is not a new thing, you see. I mean, if you look at the revelation given to Sidna Musa, to Moses, there riba was forbidden.
Yes, so it's not.
And then subsequent generations, they said, well, between us, it's forbidden, but with the Goyim, with the non-Jews, we can charge them interest.
Okay. So
with the Christians, again, they said, you know, for many years they held up, they said, we can't be involved in riba. And then with Martin Luther and Calvin, they said, well, if it's a reasonable amount of interest, then it's all right.
Protestant take on the
so
relationship
they open
between
that
capitalism and
they open that gateway.
Okay.
Then, if you look at the Muslims, they said, well, we'll try and get around it. We'll either have two transactions in one, which is haram in fact, or we'll call it a service charge. But we'll have to link it to the interbank lending rates.
Yeah, let me come to this, because what you are saying is that we have to come back to the fundamentals, because there is a problem.